Thank you. My name is Kurt Clausen, and Thomas Carney was my grandfather. But I always called him Grandpa Carney. Try to hold it together here. My love and appreciation for Thomas is very deep. And I know that I'm not alone, that he has impacted nearly everyone here in a very meaningful and significant way. Sometimes when a person dies, the challenge is that it's hard to find good things to say. And I don't think that's our challenge here today. In fact, our challenge is that there are so many good things to say that it's just about nearly impossible to fit it all in. Many of you knew him better than I and saw aspects of him that I did not. But our collective experiences are like a collage. And so I hope that these thoughts share as a contribution to a greater picture. If I had to summarize grandfather's impact upon me, one way that I might say it is this, is that Thomas Carney tangibly demonstrated to me the reality of Jesus and what it means to love him. And that I find the words of the Bible both to be authenticated and adorned by his life. And so I'd like to share a few examples of how he did this for me. First, Thomas had a vitality and a love of life that was unmistakable. He was a continuous learner with a perennial curiosity, and his interests were so broad and varied, as we saw in the video. He loved art and woodworking, activities at the community center, tortoises, gardening. To me, he seemed to know the names of 100 different plants. And I have fond memories of hiking with him, of fishing, of shooting, of working on projects in his shop. One memory that sticks out to me was when my brother Kyle and I were kids. He took us to go squirrel hunting. And so we piled into his truck and he brought the 22 and we went out to an almond orchard where the squirrels were sure to be fat and slow. And we actually drove along and just took turns shooting out the window. And it was a very good day because by the end of the time we had filled just about a whole 5-gallon bucket with the squirrels. I remember at that point Grandpa said, now we're going to skin them. I'm just not sure that I had thought that far ahead. Pretty soon we had a 5-gallon bucket full of shiny pink critters. And we brought them home, and Grandma was kind enough to go along with the whole thing. And for dinner, we had squirrel stew. You know what's the only thing better than squirrel stew? Leftover squirrel stew. But that's how Grandpa rolled. He was not into prepackaged entertainment. He sought the authentic experience. Sometimes a little too authentic. Grandpa taught me that when you're on a long hike and your legs hurt, a good remedy is to eat a raw olive. This will help you to completely forget the pain. He embodied that verse in Philippians that says, do everything without grumbling or complaining. And he just didn't have time for that. He was too thankful and he saw too much good in life. But if I had to summarize one image that summarizes his vitality and love to life, I have an image that is frozen in my mind. And we were on Uncle Stanley's ski boat. This is probably 10 or 15 years ago. And we had been taking rides on the inner tube. And Stan had been driving, and us kids were taking rides being pulled behind the boat. And after the kids were done, Grandpa wanted to turn. So he hopped out there, put on the life vest, and got on the tube. And Stan wasn't about to give his dad an easy time just because he was 80. I remember he cranked it up faster than he had gone for any of us. And I remember looking back, watching that tube just bouncing and skipping along the water. And Grandpa just flopping around on there. And the image frozen in my mind is of that tube about 2 feet off the water. Grandpa on top of that thing, white hair blowing in the wind, a steely grip, and a big toothy smile. And that to me, it just summarizes his love of life. He heartily affirmed God's words upon creation when God said it is good. And so he was able to enjoy life because he saw that God loves creation. So I believe that his love of life was rooted in his love for God. Well, a second way that Thomas tangibly demonstrated to me the reality of Jesus was through his personality. He had a genuineness, a care, and a love for others that set him into action. And I think that was one thing that was special about Thomas, was that his love was expressed in a very tangible way, and that made him a very busy person doing many things. As all of you know, he got out quite a bit. He was industrious and purposeful because he sought to make an impact in the lives of others. And that little tan truck he had was always stocked with water and oil, with extra fan belts in case, someone was on the side of the road, and should they need a ride, he could help them out. And that was his mindset. His life was oriented to this cause of helping other people. My mom shared with me an encounter that she had this past Monday at the airport coming out here. She said that she was at the airport and she ran into an Asian man, and in the course of the conversation asked him where he was from. And he said, "I'm Hmong." And my mom said, "Well, that's interesting. My father once helped a Hmong family who was in need by giving them an apartment, a place to stay for a while." And the man said, we need more men like that. Do you know what we call a man like that in my country? A brother of Jesus. Especially in my This is the hardest paragraph for me. Especially in Mary Thomas and Madeline's marriage, it's always been evident that you loved each other. That you loved each other very deeply. You seem to complement each other so well. It was the most beautiful thing, so tender and kind towards each other. And you guys had so much fun. I just admire your marriage. And even after 60 plus years of marriage, you had a playfulness. You guys had fun with each other. You still were miffed by each other's differences. I would say, "What are you doing up there on the roof?" And so my heart goes out to you, Grandma. It's a big loss. And so just to wrap up, what I appreciate about his personality was just, he would see you and he would give a long hello. He would say, "Hello," and then he'd say your name. "Hello, Jake." And he'd say your name. You always knew that he was glad to see you. And so that's the second way that I see the love of Jesus demonstrated in my Grandpa Thomas. And so I just want to share one final reason. If I ask the question, what was it that was the key to this man's character and what made him such a blessing? I would have to say it was the Bible. That this is the theme that unifies all the parts. And from the earliest years, I remember the importance that he placed upon the Bible. In fact, in second grade, I visited out here in Phoenix, and I remember him quizzing me on Psalm 23, helping me to memorize the chapter. Grandpa believed the Bible to be the very words of God. An extraordinary claim, that God's message to the human race was reliably preserved in a group of writings which are rooted in historical events. And as a junior higher, as was mentioned in the video, I spent the summer here in Phoenix with Thomas and Madeline. And it was then that I gained a glimpse into their relationship with Jesus. Whatever the day's events, one thing was certain, that every evening we spent a significant amount of time in prayer and reading the Bible. And this is how it went, that the Bible was read out loud. The word was read, sometimes commented on, sometimes not. And then there was prayer. Prayer for those in need, prayer for missionaries, prayer for the church, and prayer for family. So I appreciated that. Thomas was a Gideon, as you know, a group which is passionate about sharing the Bible. And he almost always had extra Bibles to give away. And so I asked, what was it that he found in these writings that so gripped him, that so centered his life? Well, in short, he found God. Or rather, God found him. He met the living God, and it changed him. And it didn't merely make him religious, it made him a whole new person. It was this relationship that brought to bloom the beauty of his personality, his life, and his work. This colored him through and through and touched every corner of his being. But no, he was not perfect. Those of us who knew him know that he had flaws. And those who knew him most closely saw those flaws most clearly. And only God knows the full extent of his brokenness and sin.